Well, thank you. It is an absolute pleasure to be among the Legion family this evening. It is a pleasure to be the MC for our Centennial Ball, Centennial celebration, if you will. I, too, am a member of the American Legion, University of Akron Post 808. I know that we have some from my table. Hi, guys. Well, look what we have here. It looks about 500 some people. Seems like a good number, right? Good number. And I must say, you're all looking absolutely marvelous. I see some very, very sharp-dressed individuals this evening. So let me be the first to wish you all a very warm welcome and happy birthday. 100 years is truly a landmark for any organization, but especially for the American Legion, which was founded on March 15, 1919 in Paris, France. The American Legion was then chartered and incorporated by Congress that same year as a patriotic veterans organization devoted to mutual helpfulness. I'd like to recognize all of our Gold Star and Blue Star families for their gift to our country, especially those that are here this evening. Would the Gold Star and Blue Star families please stand? Thank you. You may be seated. The American Legion is proud of its history as an organization and its support to our communities. It's especially proud of its ongoing history of honoring our flag and our country. We will be sure to have more on our history books throughout the evening. God and country have always been and continues to be a hallmark in our organization. In keeping with our tradition, we now begin the formal portion of the program. As a custom, the American Legion, at all formal events, please stand if you are able for the presentation of our nation's colors, state flag, and the American Legion colors. It is our honor tonight to have the members of the Central Ohio Young Marines serving as our color guard. Please continue standing if you are able for the national anthem, which will be sung by the amazing Rob McNeil of the Crusaders Christian Quartet.
Let's all sing it together. He's not able to be here this evening. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Serving as our 2018-2019 Department of Ohio Commander, Bob Schmidt will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color Guard, post the colors.
Right, face, forward, arch.
Before we begin the invocation, please notice that there is a votive on your table. a votive candle. Please take a moment to light that candle for those who have gone before us in service to our country. This evening's invocation will be offered by the American Legion Department of House Chaplain, Jim Vaughn.
As you entered the room, you may have noticed a special table. It is reserved to honor our missing comrades. It's right there. Set for one, the empty chair represents Americans who were missing or still are missing, all with us in spirit. Let me explain the meaning of this table and then join me for a moment of silence. The table is round to show our everlasting concern. The cloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering the call to serve. The single red rose reminds us of the lives of those Americans and their loved ones and the friends who keep the faith while seeking answers. The red ribbon symbolizes our continued uncertainty, hope for their return, and determination to account for them. A slice of lemon reminds us of their bitter fate, captured or missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears of our missing and their families. The lighted candle reflects our hope for their return. The chair is empty, they are missing. With that, please be seated. Let us now raise our water glasses in a toast to honor America's POW MIAs, to the success of our efforts to account for them, and to the safety of all now serving our nation. Heavenly Father, be with us, O Lord, as we gather for this important centennial celebration. May your wisdom and counsel guide us as we seek for God and country to develop and authorize programs to benefit the citizens and especially the veterans of this great land. Teach us to think wisely and carefully before we speak, to act with courage and conviction for the good of all rather than simply for vested interests, and to deal charitably with one another that we may all continue to enjoy mutual respect. So may we serve you in spirit and in truth, that our accomplishments will be built upon the firm foundations of charity and justice. Thus, may our labors at all times bring credit to the American Legion and be of benefit to those we seek to serve as your great honor and glory. Amen.
Tonight, we will learn about various activities past, present, and future of our American Legion. Tonight, we are fortunate to have several respected individuals who will be joining us in celebrating our 100th birthday. Our first presenter is Mr. Bob Spinogle. Mr. Spinogle is the former National Adjutant of the American Legion. He was named the past National Commander of the American Legion by the 90th Annual Convention on his retirement after 36 years of service. He is a former member of the Individual Investors Advisory Committee of the New York Stock Exchange. Mr. Spinogle and his wife, Ruth Ann, have a daughter, 2 sons, and 2 grandchildren. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Bob Spinogle.
Oh, Lord. Notice that, Ruth, will you? Ashley, thank you for that very kind introduction. And I want you to know I used to be a student veteran of the Lance Community College Veterans Association and Michigan State University Veterans Association at one time. Commander Schmidt, Adjutant Heller, NEC Man Klostermeyer, all the past department commanders, legionnaires, blue caps rule, now that I got a blue cap. You know, I looked at my membership card before I came over here, so I'm 50 years a member of the American Legion. And Oldsmobile Post 236, so I hope I don't go the way that Oldsmobiles went. not anytime soon anyway. You know, it's great to come to the Department of Ohio. As one of my dear friends that passed away, a fellow adjutant, Roger Height, and I see Pam Height here with us tonight. He and I were great friends. Ohio's had a number of past national commanders: John McQuigg, Milo Warner, Jim Wagonseller, Roger Munson. But I want to start on the 100th anniversary with another past national commander who served from Ohio, Frederick Galbraith, commonly known as Fritz. Fritz was the only national commander that was killed in office when he was thrown out of a car on the corner of 16th Street and then West Street into a ditch trying to make a train to go about his business as national commander. They had a plaque there. It's right next to the old Bush Stadium, our AAA baseball stadium. And they had a plaque on there, and I remember the plaque down in a kind of this big ditch where the car rolled over. And there was a plaque on there, but they'd done some road construction, and this lady called me, a widow of a guy that lived across the street in his house. And of course, the construction crew didn't know much about the plaque. So he put it in his garage, and she called our headquarters, went and got the plaque, took it to Bumper Shop, put it in our library, and Roger, and then then the Department Commander of Ohio, the NEC gave it back to Ohio, and I think it's in your library today. Galbraith was an interesting fellow. He went to Massachusetts Nautical School in Massachusetts, which was a 3-year course. He passed it in 1 year. He became a clipper captain in the Pacific in the Far East. He rescued a boat that was sinking, another clipper, and he was recognized that. When World War I came about, or just before World War I, Fritz knew that he was going in, and he was 40 years old. And he joined the Ohio National Guard. And he went off to World War I, and he retired. He came out of the Guard in that war as a lieutenant colonel in the Ohio group that went to World War I. On Armistice Day, he and a lot of the other commanders, that morning of the 11th, you remember the 11th day of the 11th hour of the 11th month, somebody at MACV, I used to call it MACV, Vietnam, but at headquarters, said, "We want you to take that village across that river." Some of the colonels did, and they got people killed. Galbraith defied the order and says, stand pat. He says, "I'm not going to send my young soldiers off to get killed in the last 6 hours of this war." But he was quite a man, but he became the second national commander of the American Legion. As you might recall, in 1923, the second National Convention was in Cleveland. But Galbraith was chosen by Teddy Roosevelt to start the American Legion in Ohio. And the year he was department commander, which was in 1920, he had 576 posts and 13,000 members, I believe. Well, he went on. He was chosen by the delegates to the convention to be the national commander. And he emerged as one of the most outstanding commanders, even though it was cut short by his death. He launched a program on health care, disability benefits, employment, and care for families who lost parents. There were 3,000 French orphans of French soldiers whose mother also could not take care of, and he wanted them adopted. But he did one other thing, and it's so true today. He asked all the posts throughout this country to give him a report on the disabled veterans and those that were homeless. And they did. And they found veterans suffering from shell shock in county homes, in jails, on the streets, in the woods, and that became his quest for a Veterans Bureau. He was quite a man. And He also assisted, as I said, he fought for proper punishment for deportation of aliens who had used foreign citizenship to escape wartime service. He called on all Ohio schools for patriotism, and his dedication to the American Legion's well known as one of our founders. You know, it's interesting in Ohio, because I referenced Fritz on shell shock, and Dr. Salmon, who in 1920s from Ohio started in to look at shell shock, which now we understand as PTSD. Of course, you know about the GI Bill, and you'll see probably a film on that a little bit. Our founders, I knew Harry Comrie, 50 years, you got to know somebody. I knew a lot of the World War I guys. And Comrie talked to a bunch of us Vietnam vets, 1972 National Convention in Chicago. And he described what he did. And I want to just describe it. I might go a little minute over time. Harry Comrie stood there, and he said, well, gentlemen, he is the architect of the GI Bill. He said, gentlemen and ladies, he said, it was like any other committee meeting you ever attended. Yak, 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 yak. Everybody had an idea. We had a bunch of resolutions dealing with employment, education, housing, loans for farms, and all that. He said, I got so disgusted, I went over to the Mayflower Hotel, and I wrote it in hand. And that's still on display in the American Legion, and it passed Congress by one vote in conference committee. And the reason people were against it was that World War II veterans got 52 weeks, $20 a week unemployment when they were discharged. And some senators and congressmen did not wish Afro-Americans to get that kind of money down in Mississippi and Georgia. But it took a Georgia congressman, Congressman Gibson, to break that tie. So we have a proud history. Just two more things before I turn this thing over. I think many of you know John Summer. John Summer served as your Department Service Officer when he was 23 years old, combat medic in Vietnam. John went on to become the Executive Director of the Washington office when I was National Adjutant. And John Summer and Gene Stellman and Steve Stellman, the Columbia University epidemiologist, and Dick Christian, Colonel Christian, who's now deceased, asked 6 departments to go out and interview combat Vietnam vets and those that weren't in Vietnam on a health thing related to Agent Orange and cancer. 6 states, Ohio was one of them, all volunteers. Now remind you, Centers for Disease Control spent almost $4 million on a study and poo-pooed Agent Orange and said there's nothing to it. With our volunteers, we spent $86,000. And that was to hire students to input the data into a computer because that's the way technology was at the time. Gene Stellman gave her time. 6 years going through scientific protocol, and that's why you have a disability today for Agent Orange. So I thank you in Ohio and the 5 other departments. I'll end this. I know we got a big schedule. And I had the honor of serving on your national staff for 36 years. And I've got to thank my wife of 52 years for encouraging me in the American Legion. My wife Ruth's with me tonight. So she had to put up with a lot of travel and all of that sort of thing and raise 3 kids. But there's one thing that I always reminded myself. There's not one program at national headquarters that didn't start with a Legion post. Baseball in North Dakota, Minot. Oratorical in Missouri. Boys State with Illinois. And Legion Riders in Garden City, Michigan. I might have left one out, but every program started because of you. And I want to thank you for that. I'm proud to be here tonight. I'm joined by Jeff Stouffer, which Suzette invited over to look at your archives. Jeff's our media director at National Headquarters, and he's a great guy and really understands what posts do. So thank you for upholding the American Legion's vast mission as enunciated in the preamble to the Constitution, keeping the legacy and the vision of Hanford McNider, and hopefully keeping the vision that a veteran is a veteran, and that no matter who we are, we're all blue cap legionnaires in this big thing, going for a strong America and standing up for what we learned as soldiers, airmen, Navy, and Coast Guard. So thank you so much, and I think I was short enough, wasn't I, Susan? You know, it's pretty hard for me to talk about the American Legion for 10 minutes, because I really love what I did, and I continue to love what I do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, past National Commander Spinogle. Wow, I'm motivated. I'm 25, and to hear some of the things that we have done and how our programs have created just at that grassroots post level, it gives me such hope and optimism moving forward for our next 200-year birthday, right? So without further ado, I will introduce our next presenter and keynote this evening, co-founder of Student Veterans of America and U.S. Air Force veteran Derek Blumke. During Derek's tenure as the SVA's president and executive director, he led the organization's efforts in lobbying to help pass post-9/11 GI Bill through Congress, and laid the foundation of SVA, of which we now know hosts chapters of over 1,500 campuses in all 50 states and 4 countries. Derek has served as a technical executive in New York City, was the founding director of a national mental health program for Department of Veteran Affairs, and was a founding committee member of the National Action Alliance on Suicide Prevention. He now serves on the American Legion Centennial Committee and is the assistant adjutant of the American Legion Post 46 in Ann Arbor. Derek now works to address impacts of technologies on the workforce and the suicide epidemic facing veterans in our communities. Please welcome Mr. Blumke.
Thank you so much. The guy you should be standing for is the guy that just came off the stage here. I'm actually kind of shocked that I'm following Mr. Spinogle because he, I know folks within the Legion family here know Mr. Spinogle well. Some of the younger folks, some of the student vets that are here. I just want to try to share with you the impact that this person has had on this organization and our country. I'll get to that in a few minutes, actually. Ashley, thank you so much for that kind introduction. More importantly, thank you for your service to your country and your community, through your leadership in uniform and your work as a leader within the SVA community, and for so passionately carrying the torch forward with the American Legion for another 100 years. Thank you to my dearest friend, Adjutant Suzette Heller. I don't know if I have enough words to say how proud of where she is today, and I'll try to keep this strip right here. Sorry. And your husband, Scott. It's a strange thing when your friend, protege, and former state director of SVA switches to become your mentor. Weird, but great. But I could not be more proud of you, see how far you've come, and where you're going to be in the future with your leadership and your competencies. Commander Schmidt, thank you for having me here. Your leadership team, Roger, Second Vice Commander Gene Wilson, for the invitation here. I know it's strange having someone from the school up north down here. I had to say it. You're all thinking it. You're seeing this on my hat. It's like, it had to be said. Had to be said. Thanks to the SVA folks who are here. If we could get all the student vets and former student vets to stand up, please. Alex, Tom Wilk, who's the SVA president of OSU, Treasurer Nate Gerrans. It's a pleasure talking to you this evening. You folks are the present leadership of our country, whether you realize it or not. What we did when we were building SVA, we were kids on college campuses thinking that, hey, these things are wrong and we need to fix them, and we did. So you guys have the reins now. So before we get started, actually I'm gonna roll into this here. If you could play along with me, I'm gonna try to take us on a little exercise. We're gonna go for a ride up north. Follow along. Play along, okay, please. All right, so we're in Ann Arbor. Fine. It's your first semester on campus at the University of Michigan. Close your eyes. And zip it, please, just for a second. You're a recent transfer student from Lansing Community College. You returned from overseas 6 months ago, and you took off your uniform for the last time only 2 months ago. The weather has gotten cold recently, so the leaves have started to turn, but today the weather is unusually warm. You're wearing shorts and your new, I won't fill in the blank, t-shirt as you walk through the quad towards the big house. But you aren't going there for a game. Instead, you're walking in that direction because your advisor mentioned there's a reception for veterans at the American Legion post next to the stadium. As you walk down the street past Packard, you're growing more and more frustrated. You're questioning your decision to go to school here. And as you walk past the house with kids playing drinking games in the front lawn, you feel even more alien from those around you. You take a right onto Hoover, and you walk past the beautifully ornate intramural gymnasium entrance. The stone and brick architecture towering above makes you think you're at an Ivy League school out east, another indicator that you don't belong here. You take the left on the main as your advisor instructed, and as you get further up the hill, you see something foreign. You're almost in disbelief as you near the military green 3-inch M5 anti-tank gun, which is the size of a full-size truck. It's mounted on the front lawn, pointing at everyone walking past. You look past the gun and see a huge white mansion with beautiful pillars holding up the portico. Mounted above the entrance is a sign that says, American Legion, welcome. On the side of the second floor of the house is a painting of an American flag. Soaring above it is one of the largest U.S. flags you've ever seen. Beyond the mansion is a big house, easily within a baseball throw from the home. You walk the sidewalk up the grass, the manicured lawn, and as you near the steps, this is a welcome party. You walk to the open front door and into a room that's nearly as ruckus as the party your unit hosted when you got back from overseas, but this place is much too fancy for what you now know is a house full of other veterans. You don't recognize anyone, and you decide that going upstairs to get to the bar is going to be easier, so you follow the staircase and you make your way up the antique stairwell, past the landing to the second floor lounge. You're still in shock that this place exists, and you're finally recognizing it's not a mirage. As you make your way to get a drink from the bar, a guy with a buzz cut aggressively reaches out his hand to greet you. Yes, a former Marine. I'm Charles, and I was in the Marines. What branch were you in? Oh, welcome to the American Legion. So I'm going to come back to this. I got out of active duty in 2005. I went to community college in northern Michigan. On my first day coming out of community college, I got in my car and was driving around trying to figure out what to do. I was trying to, I was confused because I just couldn't imagine that this is it. And so I thought, I'll go to the VFW. They'll know what to do with me. Like I'm just floating at this point. And so I drive over to Harbor Springs, which is nearby my hometown of Lansing. And I get to the town hall. Parking lot's empty. Get to the doors. The doors are closed. The lights are off. There's no sign on the door. And I remember just staring at the door, terrified. Now what am I going to do? My parents didn't go to college. I'm the first in my family to go to school. I don't know what to major in. I've met doctors and lawyers and whatnot before, but I can't become one of those. So 2 years later, I transferred to the University of Michigan. I get to campus. I'm floundering. Again, feel isolated, don't have a community. I'm one of, looking back now, of 48 active duty veterans on the campus of 41,000 students, and struggling. I was 26 years old, had kids ask me the questions that hopefully you guys get less now of, have you killed people? My favorite one was, though, is, so how old are you? That's my favorite one, because you know where this is going. You're in the military. You're in the military. That house that I described, they sold it in 1988. The University of Michigan ended up acquiring it. It's now a parking lot. Sadly, we're seeing a lot of this. I've been involved in the Legion for a decade now. Mr. Spindogel brought me in and made me really part of this family. I truly care about it. That's why I'm involved. When I moved back from New York City, I was involved in my post out in Manhattan. Moved back to Michigan, back involved in the same post that actually incorporated SVA, my former adjutant of the Ann Arbor Legion post. He actually incorporated Student Veterans America, which is a pretty significant feather under the American Legion's cap. And I'm now the assistant adjutant looking to take his role at some point, his former role, since he's passed away now. But this is really a call to everyone here that the American Legion is an incredible organization. It has literally written the GI Bill, passed it through Congress, has been really one of the pillars of our democracy for the past, now, as of today, our past 100 years. I'm really saying this to call the student veterans that I asked to stand up earlier. It's now our responsibility to really make sure that you're getting involved, which I was a little bit back when I was in college, but I don't think I really truly appreciated the impact this organization has had on our country, our communities, and really on my life. And I'm asking you all to put on the cap. I struggled with it for a couple of years. Finally, I actually really am proud of wearing the cap. It took me a couple of years to get used to it, but this organization's got incredible potential. We literally, the American Legion has a larger footprint probably than Starbucks. We've got thousands of posts, almost over 10,000 posts across the country. I believe 460 in the state of Ohio alone, 520. You're bigger than Starbucks. Boom. What if we really leveraged our resources and started providing programs and services to veterans in the communities, helping them get jobs, helping them with getting investments from other veterans into their small business that they're starting up? We've got an incredible history to be proud of, and an even more inspiring history to be looking forward to. So I want to thank all of you for, one, having someone from the school up north here with you this evening. It has truly been a pleasure and honor. Thank you all for everything that you do for the state of Ohio, for your communities, for your country, and I really look forward to being part of your family for decades to come. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Blumke, for all that you've done in your services to veterans. I don't know about you, but I'm motivated. I've never been more motivated, and I know for being a student veteran and continuing the mission, this is our organization. So we're all in good company, one big family. Sherrod Campbell Brown is an American politician serving as a senior United States Senator from Ohio, a seat that he was first elected to in 2006. Let's hear it for our Mansfield hometown boy. Anyone from Mansfield? Yeah? Okay, I knew there'd be a few. So as you probably heard, he's a bit busy lately with his professional plans, doing big things. But he wanted to join us on our Centennial celebration with a short video.
I'm Sherrod Brown. It's a privilege to serve as a United States Senator. Happy 100th birthday, the American Legion. How cool is that? For a century now, Legionnaires have come home, they've hung up their uniforms, they've continued to serve. From your scholarships to your food drives, from your career fairs to your community events, you never stop giving back. I want to thank the Legionnaires for service to country, for service to community, for service to other veterans, and what you will continue to do for our state and our nation. Thanks to your families who sacrifice alongside of you and don't often receive the thanks and appreciation that they deserve. I'm the first senator ever to serve from Ohio on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee for a full term. Been there 12 years. It's our mission to give all of you the opportunities and the quality care that you earned. You've done so much for our country. You ask for little recognition. You've earned it many times over. Happy birthday, 100 years of the American Legion. Thank you so much.
So as I understand it, there is an additional presentation from Senator Brown. Would Commander Bob Schmidt and a representative from from Senator Sharon Brown's office please come forward to the podium to present a proclamation?
So hello, my name's Ellen Short. I represent Senator Sherrod Brown in the Central Ohio region. I just wanted to say it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having us, letting Senator Brown be a part of tonight, and me as well. I come from a family full of veterans, and it's always so meaningful to get to spend an evening with people that have been through the same. And I just want to reiterate what my boss said about thanking the families. As someone who has been by the side of a veteran when they've come home or while they're serving, it's just really amazing to be here. And I also want to say a special thanks to the POW table. My uncle was a POW, and I've never heard some of the symbolism that was mentioned tonight with the table. So it was really beautiful to hear that. So thank you for this evening. I hope you have a wonderful night. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
And since she said she came from a family that's full of veterans, I have a pocket full of applications to make sure that they're all members of the American Legion.
I will take that, yeah. Thank you.
All right. So our next presenter is the Honorable Robert Sprague, who was elected to office of Treasurer of the great state of Ohio on January 14, 2019. As Treasurer, he has had the responsibility of overseeing Ohio's financial assets and managing public investments. Prior to being elected Treasurer, he worked in the private sector as a business consultant before entering public service at both the local and state level. His commitment to public service is matched only by his love of family. He and his wife Amanda live in his hometown of Findlay with their 5 children. Please welcome to the podium the 49th State Treasurer of the great state of Ohio, Robert Cole Sprague.
Thank you. Good job pronouncing my name, too.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you for your service to our country as well. It's really an honor for me to be here with you tonight, and I'll explain in just a minute. But first of all, I got to tell you, I went to Buckeye Boys State when I was a junior in high school. If you're involved with Buckeye Boys State, could you please stand up? I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for all of you and what you do for Buckeye Boys State. Suzette told me I could tell this story. So I'm a brand new legislator. I'm a kid from Findlay, Ohio. I want to come down and serve in the General Assembly, and I serve under Speaker Batchelder. And he agreed to come up to Findlay to give a speech in my district. He gave a great speech and got a standing ovation. And after the speech, when he came back to my table, I leaned over and I said, "Mr. Speaker, where are you headed to next?" He said, "Well, I'm going right up the road to Bowling Green to speak at Buckeye Boys State." He said, "I make a point to do that, to speak at their commencement." I said, "Oh, Mr. Speaker," I said, "I've got a really funny story to tell you. When I was a junior in high school and went to Buckeye Boys State, I ran for governor and I lost. And I said it had been about 10 days since we had seen a member of the fairer sex. And the fellow that came to our commencement speech, who arrived there, brought his beautiful high school daughter with him. We stood up and gave that young lady such a wonderful round of applause. I said, that poor sot probably thought it was for him. And the speaker turned to me with a shocked look on his face, and he said, that was me. I wanted to crawl under the table. But Buckeye Boys State was a great experience. I'm honored to be here in my professional capacity as the treasurer of the state of Ohio to tell you about our commitment, our official commitment as a state to our veterans and to your organization. But this is also a personal night for me and my family. My great-grandfather was Ralph Dayton Cole. He was one of the founders of the American Legion, one of those 20 soldiers in Paris on the day when he and Teddy Roosevelt and 18 others, including Mr. Galbraith, helped found the American Legion. And your commander has already talked about some of the incredible things that the Legion has done. But I know from some of his notes that were taken during those meetings that they wanted the Legion, first and foremost, to be about veterans and supporting veterans when they got back from the Great War. And they made a very instrumental decision early on, and that was that they were going to take care of a veteran no matter whether or not they were a member of the American Legion. And I just want to thank you for continuing that tradition. You helped pass the GI Bill. You created the VA. And each and every day, you represent veterans in Ohio, and you help them. So I want to thank you for taking care of our soldiers. We will never forget the men and women who serve as Ohioans, as Buckeyes, and serve our nation. My great-grandfather was willing to lay down his life for his country, but he actually lost his life in service to the American Legion. He was a state commander and was traveling to northeastern Ohio to make a speech one evening and was in a car accident and lost his life. But I know that if he were here today, that he would have told you that it was worth it. The service and the sacrifice was worth what you've done. And so tonight I want to conclude by thanking all of you and what you've done for our soldiers, for our veterans, and for our country. In the preamble to the Legion Constitution, it says that the Legion will exist to keep justice in America, to retain democracy, and most of all, to give us our freedom. Thank you for what you've done.
Thank you, Treasurer Sprague, for your remarks. We very much appreciate your support and all of the wonderful history that comes with your family. We appreciate your service. When serving as the Ohio Attorney General, now Governor DeWine has always made our American Legion Boy State and Girl State program a top priority each year. It's no surprise that when he wants to join our celebration by having a staff present, an Ohio proclamation for our Centennial celebration arrives. Could Commander Bob Schmidt and Representative Deborah Ashurst please join me at the podium?
Good evening. I am Debbie Ashenhurst. I am your Director of Veterans Services for our new governor, Governor DeWine. And I'd just like to say it's a whole new day. It's a whole new day for our military members and for our veterans. I think that was demonstrated with the budget rollout today. If you haven't heard, all of our service organizations got a little bump up. I know it's not quite what we want, but I didn't quite get what I wanted in my budget either, but it's a start. And our governor really truly has a heart for veterans. He has a heart for our service members, and he's already demonstrating that in the places he's going, the visits he's making, and he has a history of in his family of military. And back when he was a senator, even told me that he would have served had he been able. So he asked me, since he was unable to come here this evening, if I would present the proclamation. If you will bear with me, I'd like to read it. It's really not very long. So Mike DeWine and John Husted, Governor and Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, do hereby officially recognize the American Legion Department of Ohio as you host your 100th anniversary celebration, March 15, 2019. On behalf of the state of Ohio, we extend a warm welcome to all those attending the 100th anniversary celebration in Columbus, Ohio. We are truly blessed to live in a land of unparalleled liberty and opportunity, but these blessings do not come without cost. They are bought and paid for by the service and sacrifice of generations of American military men and women from 1775 right up to the present moment. We thank all of those who have served our nation for your commitment and dedication to defending the liberty, both at home and abroad. We extend our best wishes for a memorable celebration. On this 15th day of March, 2019, Mike DeWine, Governor, John Husted, Lieutenant Governor, and my Legionnaire husband and I both are happy to be here and want to congratulate you on 100 years and join in this celebration. Please accept this on behalf of our governor.
Thank you. What a night. What a night. I would like to thank Deborah Ashurst on behalf of the Ohio Department of Veteran Services and Mike DeWine, our governor, and our commander for being just so wonderful and grateful and, gracious for all the things that we have accomplished in our tenature, if you will. One of the components of tonight's celebration is to begin a Centennial scholarship that will help both veterans and students pursue their educational goals. Suzette Heller, our state adjutant, who serves very diligently, and she's quite a mentor to me, a little off script. You're awesome. We'll share more about this annual scholarship. Suzette, if you can come to the podium, please.
Good evening. What a wonderful event. Before I forget, I just want to thank everybody who is here this evening. I thank your districts. I thank your posts. I thank your families. Thank you for being here. All of you have made this event tonight just absolutely amazing. It's been really, really nice. So, sorry. I'm trying not to be nervous. Not working. Okay. It felt really nice to get dressed up. This morning when I woke up, I was really excited. Last night before I went to bed, I was really excited. It was the eve of the 100th Centennial. And when I had a conversation with the oldest living past department commander, Dean Scholl, about 2 weeks ago, I said to him, "Did you ever think that you would live to see the 100th birthday of the American Legion?" And he said, "No, I did not." We tried to get him here this evening. However, he declined. We're going to go do a wellness check on him and do an interview and feature him in our next Ohio Legion News. So please stay tuned for that. So this truly is an honor and a privilege, because all of us sitting in this room right now, we will never experience this. So we've been blessed to be able to sit here and celebrate the birthday of the American Legion for 100 years. So good evening, guests, friends, American Legion family, and to our special guests, Bob Spinogle, Derek Blumke, Robert Sprague, and Ashley Gorbagera. I want to thank our department commander, our vice commander, Roger Friend, our other vice commander, Jeannie Wilson. I'm very excited to be working with the first female elected department vice commander in the state of Ohio in 100 years. Jeannie, you worked really hard for the seat you're sitting in right now, and I thank you. I want to thank my husband, Scott Heller, for supporting me in the American Legion. Well, who I really want to thank, our staff of the American Legion Department of Ohio. The unity, the team that we have, we truly are a Legion family at your headquarters. So I really do, my hope and prayers are that you all see us in that light as well. So I want to thank our staff. Please stand. All staff, please stand. Thank you. This is only part of them, but they all work together. We all work together to make this happen. So thank you, Paris Hobson, for taking the lead on this. There's so many of you here tonight that have had such an influence on my life. I've been in Ohio now since 2013. It saddened me to tell Pat Lafferty, the adjutant in Michigan, that I was leaving to go work for Roger Height in Ohio. It really did. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And it took me a couple years to grow some legs, but Ohio is truly my home. Today I can say that this is my home. So don't go asking too much there, Jerry Wilson. I have an alma mater. So each of you hold space in my journey as I stand here before you as your department adjutant for the American Legion Department of Ohio on behalf of this amazing organization. American poet, singer, memoirist, and civil rights activist Maya Angelou once said, "You can't really know where you are going until you know where you have been." In 1966, the Deward I. Bernhardt American Legion Youth Camp was organized. Due to lack of use and increasing costs, the Board of Trustees closed the campsite, and in 1981, the camp was leased to Bannock Coal Company for the mining of coal. By the end of 1991, all mining had ceased. The camp had always been a nonprofit, and the only income was from interest on investments, which were willed to the American Legion Department of Ohio by Legionnaire Deward Bernhardt. These funds established a scholarship program, and the earnings from the investment of this fund has been able to provide substantial scholarships over the years to direct descendants of active or deceased Legionnaires, surviving spouses, and children of military personnel who died on active duty or died from injuries sustained while on active duty. There is a special annual scholarship known as the Deward I. Bernhardt Scholarship, given to one applicant each year who meets the eligibility requirements and is a resident of Belmont County, Ohio. Since 1993, the Department of Ohio has granted 24 scholarships to a Belmont County resident and hundreds of others throughout Ohio. The application deadline for these scholarships is April 15th, and you can find the applications on our website at ohiolegion.com. Sorry. I am proud to say we are not new to the business of administrating and granting scholarships to our Legionnaires, veterans, and our youth. And there's certainly no coincidence that the American Legion has a special interest in our ranks of student veterans, for we created the Montgomery GI Bill, which essentially created the middle class of America. That is something to be proud of. In January of 2019, Student Veterans of America held its 11th annual national conference in Orlando, Florida. If we do the math, the first one was held in 2008 in Chicago, Illinois, then San Francisco, California in 2009. 2010 was my first conference with SVA at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. There were roughly 200 student veterans in attendance. I will never forget the words of former VA Secretary General Shinseki, who said to all of us, "Think of me as your father who is paying for your college. I only have one requirement of you: graduate." That resonated greatly with me, and in 2013, as an employee representing the American Legion Department of Ohio, I had the privilege of experiencing a face-to-face meeting with General Shinseki to tell him that I did just that, and to thank him for keeping our education benefits intact and for the work he, SVA, and the American Legion did to reform the Montgomery GI Bill to what we know of today as the post-9/11 GI Bill. Not every student veteran got to do that, and let me say, it was the icing on the cake. In that moment of giving back and simply saying thank you, every challenged milestone in my journey of higher education, which is still happening today, was instantly validated and worth every moment. Why? With all the resources being thrown at student veterans to obtain a degree in higher education, the graduation rate at that time was surprisingly low. There were many factors that contributed to this, and as a grassroots organizer of SVA, I can stand here and give you a laundry list of problems that included disjointed services and communications, and numerous internal and external matters that were not formally addressed within the system of higher education and our returning warriors. In 2009, degrees and certificates awarded using the post-9/11 GI Bill was 453,000, which is equivalent to 1 degree for each resident of Raleigh, North Carolina. In 10 years, student veterans will have expected to earn 1.4 million degrees, equivalent to 1 degree for each resident of Dallas, Texas. To give you further perspective on the importance of fellowship, camaraderie, and professional development provided by SVA, in 2011, the year I graduated, our conference was held in Las Vegas with a little over 400 student veterans. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I'm sure Derek's chuckling over there. In 2019, in Orlando, Florida, there were over 2,200 student veterans that attended that conference. They are obviously doing something right, and the American Legion Department of Ohio recognizes that. A portion of the proceeds raised at this Centennial Bowl tonight will assist Ohio student veteran chapters to send at least one veteran to the SVA National Conference each year by offering chapter grants, as it costs roughly $500 to get one student veteran to a conference. This Centennial Ball is but one celebration happening globally this evening and throughout the weekend. Tonight and every day, we tell our story of how the American Legion has been instrumental in contributing to the betterment of the world and the people in it for God and country. American Legion family is what every one of you are to me. We are mighty and instrumental to our communities, our state, and our nation. We stand for the greater good, and most of us in this room have devoted a lifetime to mutual helpfulness. There is no greater reward. I close with this quote from former President George Washington, who once said, "The willingness with which our young people are likely to survive in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by our nation." Thank you, and enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Adjutant Heller, for your remarks and what the American Legion is doing to help educational goals for our veterans and students in Ohio. As a student veteran who just graduated myself and now an SVA alumni, and I know post-808 is here with us, we're very excited. We're very excited to move forward and have these opportunities to go to NatCon and encourage our brothers and sisters to the left and right to go forward and do good things, right? Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRosa wanted to wish us well this evening. We have received another proclamation for tonight's celebration. Secretary LaRosa continually serves the Ohio Secretary of State after serving 2 terms as a member of the Ohio State Senate from Ohio's 27th Senate District, which includes Wayne County as well as portions of Stark and Summit counties. Just months after his election win, as the Ohio Secretary of State, Frank LaRosa is making changes while looking ahead to the 2020 presidential election. Not too shabby. He and his office plan to work with other parts of the government to encourage higher vote turnout among our Ohioans, whether they are Republicans like himself, Democrats, or members of other parties. Would Commander Bob Schmidt and Adjutant Heller please come up to the podium for our proclamation?
Okay. All right.
I will.
Read it to the commander?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Very easy.
By authority of Secretary of State of Ohio, Frank LaRose, who's also a veteran, presents this certificate of commendation to American Legion. I am pleased to extend special and well-deserved recognition on your 100th anniversary. This certificate of commendation is tendered on behalf of the people of the state of Ohio as a small token of their sincere gratitude and admiration for your exemplary work and devotion to mentoring youth, supporting our communities, advocating patriotism and honor, promoting strong national security, and continued devotion to service members and veterans. As Ohio's Secretary of State, it is my privilege and unique distinction to recognize and commend you on your Centennial celebration. I wish you continued success and hope this milestone is but one in a long line of similar accomplishments. Signed by Frank LaRose, Ohio Secretary of State, March 14, 2019.
Alrighty, so would Dan Willis please come forward for a presentation to the Legion? Oh, right on cue.
Hey.
Right on cue, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. You got me up, John? Can you hear me? Great, thank you. They made my letters very, very small in the proclamation. I'm sorry. The proclamation, this is a wonderful evening. We'll talk about it more later. Do you realize all the proclamations and the recognition that we're receiving from the highest people in our government for our 100th anniversary? This is amazing. This is from the Office of the Ohio Attorney General. A proclamation acknowledging the 100th anniversary of the American Legion. Whereas the American Legion was chartered by Congress in 1919 on March 15th. Whereas the American Legion was chartered by Congress in 1919 as a patriotic veterans organization, and whereas the American Legion has focused on service to veterans, service to members and communities, and whereas the American Legion evolved from a group of war-weary veterans of World War I into one of the most influential nonprofit groups in the United States, and whereas the American Legion membership stands at over 2 million in more than 13,000 posts worldwide, and whereas over the years the Legion has influenced considerable social change in America, won hundreds of benefits for veterans, and produced many important programs for children and youth. Therefore, as Attorney General of the state of Ohio, it is my honor to recognize and congratulate the American Legion on its 100th anniversary on March 15, 2019. Dave Yost, Ohio Attorney General, March 15.